You know, my next guest is the general at Xtreme Couture, Mr. Eric Nicksick, joining us here on the program. We're going to talk about Sean Strickland's prep for Paulo Costa. We got a lot to get into, actually, because that gym has a lot going on. Eric, how are you this afternoon?
I'm doing good, man. Just busy morning. Danny Ige, Raul Rosas, Solomon Renfro, and then we'll have pro practice at 3:30. So just staying on the grind, man.
Going to take a sharp turn here. Hate to do this, but we got to mention, I know your good buddy there, Francis Ngannou, obviously going through a lot right now. I understand later in the week you mentioned to me that you're going to actually be traveling out there and everything. How's Francis doing? I got 2 kids. You got a family. Very, very devastating news we heard last week.
Yeah, man, it's heartbreaking. It's tough for me to even talk about. I just want to be there for my guy. I want to try to get out there as soon as I can, just to give him a hug, man. It's tough to even talk about, bro. I'm heartbroken for him. No parent should have to go through what he's going through right now.
Let's talk about Sean Strickland. Let's take a sharp turn again in a positive light. Fight against Paulo Costa, which I've seen a lot of people criticize, but I really don't know who else he would have fought to keep him active at this point. Were you sort of expecting Paulo as an opponent for Sean next?
I think it's a great opponent, and I don't get too lost in the rankings and the numbers, I think Paulo Costa is a dangerous opponent anytime you fight him, no matter where he's at in the rankings. You have to mind your P's and Q's against a guy like Paulo. I thought he looked impressive against Robert Whtitaker, although he lost that fight. I think he was just a step behind, but he was always dangerous throughout that entire fight, especially what we saw at the end of the first round. So his athleticism, his fast twitch, the power that he carries throughout a 15-round fight, man, the guy's always dangerous, and I think he's very deserving of this fight.
And with Costa as well, a really good showing against Whtitaker. I mean, it was a loss, but it was a fight that he was very much in. He almost finished Rob in the first round. Does this kind of, it'd be different if Sean had fought Paulo off such a long layoff, but because of that fight, do you think this is more intriguing because Paulo was pretty close to finishing Rob in that first fight?
Absolutely. And, this guy commands so much power. And I think the biggest thing, I've cornered against him before with Uriah Hall. And that was the biggest thing I remember in big red writing on my camp notes. So the very first thing I said is, do not put your back against the cage with this guy, because there's a reason why they call him the eraser, because he's putting people out with that when he pressures you, when he puts you back up against the barrier. So, yeah, man, he's a talent. I think he's a guy in the 185-pound division who's always going to be a force to reckon with, and we take him very seriously.
You remember the Alex Pereira fight, similar in the sense that they both have really, they're power punchers. They've got knockout power. Is that Sean Gone, the one that says I'm a better, striker than a glory kickboxer? Are there any worries with you with Sean of, not falling into that sort of dogfight and playing his game in this fight? Is that something you guys are focusing on?
Oh, of course. I always worry. He doesn't listen for shit,
Yeah.
Yeah. There's elements I think that we need to address. I think that especially in a 5-round fight, it's important to utilize a full MMA skill set. You've heard me say this time and time again with Sean, and will he listen? Probably not. But those are the things that I think I can go back and point to. For example, when we lost to Jared Cannonier, there were certain things that I was asking for that I think that would have solidified the win for ourselves. Instead, we lose a close split decision. And we went back to the drawing board, and he called me actually that Sunday and said, hey, I understand what you were telling me now and why you were asking for those things. And he listened after that. And then we won 2 in a row, and then we won the title fight. Then we fought Dricus, and there were some things that I think, although the fight was very close, there was things, again, that we were asking for that I think that would have solidified us to get that victory. And we didn't do those things. So, again, he said, okay, now I understand what you're saying. It's just a growth process, I think, for me and him as a coach and fighter. I hope that he trusts our instincts from outside of the cage, and he can follow suit in some of those things and, go get us another victory.
How much does the 5 rounds favor Sean in the sense that I don't think Paulo's actually gone 5 rounds at middleweight, right? The Vettori fight was at 205, so you'd think that it would almost be easier. He does cut a lot of weight to get there. Sean's been a veteran in 5-round fights. I'm sure that's something you guys are taking a look at in this matchup.
Oh, that's a great point, James. I actually forgot about that being a 205, I remember a 205-pound fight. I remember them going back and forth because that interesting enough, they offered us Marvin Vettori because they didn't think Paulo was going to make the weight. And instead, they changed it to 205, and that kept that main event on. So Sean was actually going to fight Marvin for whatever money at the time as a 185. So that's a great point. I kind of forgot about that. I feel it definitely favors us and just our durability, our pressure, and the pace that Sean's able to keep on. We've seen what Sean's able to do in 5 rounds. He's a gas pedal guy. He's gonna stay in your face. He's gonna push the pressure. So I definitely think that does favor us in a 5-rounder.
And was there any indication to you that there were any other opponents in the mix before Sean ultimately going with Paulo Costa? Because I know they booked Whittaker and Chimaev before that. There was maybe some talk of that. Jared Cannonier, I see, is now booked against Imavov. As far as you know, was it always Paulo Costa the opponent?
I know they're hoping for maybe Khamzat.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think Sean can travel to Saudi Arabia or something.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure, but I know Khamzat name was possibly kicked around. But Khamzat's going to be a big draw in Saudi, and that fight, is more about location than it was about opponent, in my opinion. So yeah, that was the. And I ran into Dricus, man. Like, I talked to Dricus. We actually played paintball together over at Bill Zarian's house. And dude, Dricus is a class act, man. Like I really enjoy having conversation with them. We talked about the fight. We talked about life, whatever. And they said that they were asking for the rematch for Sean. They were trying to get the rematch, and they want to go a different direction. That's probably going to be Izzy, which is no problem. I understand what the UFC is trying to do, but we need to focus on Paulo Costa. We need to get that win, and I think it puts us right back into title contention.
Oh, it has to. Yeah, no, I agree, especially with such a big fight. Anything different this camp for Sean, or is it just, work on his stuff, worry less about the opponent, maybe focus more on strategy? How is camp looking going into this? We still got some time, obviously, June 1st.
Camp's been really good, and that's a great part about Sean is he's always in the gym. He's always working. Last Monday, this guy sparred Johnny Eblen for 5 rounds at 11 o'clock in the morning, and then came back to my 3:30 pro practice, which is a grinder. We ended up doing about 7 5-minute rounds. And then we did like some wall work, some drill. I mean, it's a really, really hard practice. And him and Eblen are just neck and neck every time they're in here. And that's why I love having Johnny in the room, is because, those two just push each other. And I remember texting both of them afterwards on a group chat. I was like, man, it was so impressive to see how hard you two work. And that's really Sean, man. That there's not a whole lot you're going to change from him, other than, it's really comes down to myself and Danny. As far as game planning goes, and then we game plan, or we coach him in spurts. If you give him too much information, he just blacks out. So, but it's important for Danny and I to be on the same page and what information we're putting across to Sean and making the adjustments on the fly. Kind of what we did in the Izzy fight. It's almost coach him on the fly, give him some ideas to think about and to work on. And then we call it the 80-20, 80% of what we're going to do, 20% of what the opponent's going to do.
You mentioned Eblen coming into camp. Is there anyone else that's come through Xtreme that maybe Sean doesn't normally work with, or is it his usual cast of characters as far as training partners?
Man, our 85-pound division right now is nuts. This room is absolutely crazy. We just had Michel Pereira win his fight. I think Michel's won God knows how many in a row. The move up to middleweight has been perfect for him. We obviously have Roman Dolidze on the same card. We have Brad Tavares. We got Maki in the room. We got Chris Curtis, went before his injury. Sean. Then we got guys that have been coming in and traveling in, like Johnny Eblen. So Johnny's going to be in our corner. He's going to come out and he'll be in the corner with us for this fight. He's a guy, man, that, I met him about two and a half years ago. Absolutely love having him come into town. He just really raises the level of the room with his work ethic and his talent, but he's a great teammate. So he's a blessing to have when he comes into town.
Interesting. Early prediction, Coach. Without giving away the game plan, how do we see the fight on June 1st sort of unfolding between Paulo Costa and Sean Strickland?
I think Sean can get him out of there by rounds 4 or round 5.
Okay. I like that. Didn't even hesitate, so I know it's an accurate prediction there. That's great. Let's get to the fun questions. These are rapid fire, so just whatever comes to mind. There's no wrong answers here. Eric Nixick, who is your favorite athlete outside of combat sports?
Christian McCaffrey.
Favorite movie?
Oh, that's a good question. I love Man on Fire.
Excellent choice. Favorite actor or actress?
Favorite actor. Let's see. I love Brad Pitt, man. I like Brad Pitt from Seven, Inglourious Bastards. I think of all my Fight Club, like all the fun movies always have Brad Pitt in it. So Brad Pitt.
Favorite comedian?
Oh, Patrice O'Neal. Rest in peace.
Excellent choice. Oh my God, amazing.
Yeah.
Favorite TV show?
Man, I used to love The Shield. I thought The Shield was a dope show. I would say The Shield and Breaking Bad were some of my favorites.
Favorite cheat meal?
Favorite cheat meal? Probably In-N-Out 3x3.
Favorite travel destination?
Love Newport, California. And I love Park City.
Favorite animal?
Dog.
What's your hidden talent?
What is my hidden talent? Let me think. That's pretty good. I don't know. I don't know what it would be.
A lot of people get stumbled. Maybe something you're good at that we don't know you're good at.
I'm trying to think, man. I don't even know. I'm not. I'm mediocre at all of it, James.
Okay, fair enough. I like the honesty. Okay, then my last question: what is your biggest pet peeve?
People that tell you what they're going to do, but they don't do it by their actions. They tell you, but they just don't follow through with it. It irritates the shit out of me.
Well said. You mentioned, so you're going to be leaving later this week. Is it just for like a week or two and then come back, or how's that going to work with all your fighters?
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to go right now at the moment because I have to get. So the problem with it was to be granted an emergency visa, it had to be during the time of the funeral. And then I had to get vaccinated. I had to get yellow fever, malaria. I had to get all these shots. So by the time I got my vaccinations and all these shots, it was literally like I had like a 24-hour window to get all this done, an emergency visa granted, to get on the plane to be out there for the funeral. So I might have to push it to later on in May, maybe sometime in June. And man, it's just heartbreaking, bro. I honest to God, like my whole thought process was just to travel there to give this dude a hug and hang out with him for 2 days and get back home. So I really don't know how I'm going to be able to swing it now because of the visa complications. But man, I just want to be there for my guy.
I get it totally. Last question: who you got coming up? You mentioned some of the names off the top. What's on the deck? Because you're always busy every weekend. You're traveling, cornering, all that stuff. What's on the agenda coming up?
Yeah, so right away, first week of June, we got Sean Strickland. We're looking for a replacement for the Roman Dolidze fight. He was fighting Fluffy, so we got Sean and Roman on that card as well as Cesar Almeida. He'll be on that card. I'll be cornering 2 of the 3, but Cesar's our teammate. Again, another 85er I had to mention because this dude's killing it in the room. And then come home for a few days, and it's off to Louisville, Kentucky for Cody Stamen, Punahele Soriano, and then Raul Rosas Jr. We'll be out there helping those guys. That's the early part of June. And then we got Kai Kamaka, Solomon Renfro, PFL, the end of June. So you know me, bro. It's catching those frequent flyer miles right now.
Yeah, you got to be like gold standard or platinum or whatever they call it now. You mentioned Raul Rosas. How long has he been training in Vegas? Was he there for the last fight too, or is this something relatively new?
He's been somewhat of a nomad. He bounces around. I know he goes over Syndicate. He's over at 10 Planet. He's here. He's there. And I think that's I really don't care, to be honest with you. It's just they hired me to help them with some pads and do some stuff and some game planning. Whether I'm in your corner or not, I really don't care. I'm a mercenary, bro. Just pay me to do the work, I'll do it. So, but I really like the kid. I really like the kid a lot. And I say a kid, he's 18 years old, maybe turning 19. He's a kid that's been in the gym since he was 16. And I rode him hard, man. I used to chew him out for being late. And I know that age, and you can't tell the kid anything at that age. They know it all. But I think now he understands that, like, the reason why I jump on him and I yell at him is because I see all the potential that he has. Sean Shelby actually called me before the Contender fight, and he said, "Would you give this guy your blessing to fight on the Contender?" And I said, "Yeah, I think the kid's talented enough to be on the Contender, but I think he's young enough to where this could hurt him if he lost, right?" Mm-hmm. And so he's shown a lot of growth after his loss against Christian Rodriguez, and I think that the sky's the limit for him, and I really enjoy him and his family, so it's nice to have him in the room.
No, always nice talking to you, Eric. Really appreciate the time, man. If you got anything you want to mention before we get out of here, as always, I'll give you the last word.
No, man, just tell people you love them more, because you just never know the fragility of life, and I think we learned that. Unfortunately, when bad things happen, we tend to fall back into, man, life is too short. So, just remember to tell people you love them, and you just never know.